So, what is homesteading like in my neck of the woods? Stay tuned and you'll find out. This collab was put together by Liz Zorab in Wales in the UK and Wanda and Danny at Deep South Homestead in Mississippi, USA. The intention behind this collab was for all the different homesteaders all around the world. You can hear my dog walking. There's always barking and toenails on the hardwood floor in every one of my videos. Oh, and she's my old lady who walks really slow. So I can't keep stopping. I will never get this videotaped. Anyhow, the idea behind this collab was to get all the homesteaders all over the world to kind of talk about their area of the world, their experiences as homesteaders, so that we can all kind of just see what it's like to live in different parts of the world. My homestead, I kind of use that term lightly. A lot of people, I guess it depends on your definition of homestead. We are really small. I don't have a big operation. I don't have a lot of property, but I do grow food and I do raise animals, and so I consider myself a homesteader. But this collaboration has 15 questions to answer. So I have them right here. And so let's go ahead and get started and find out what it's like in my neck of the woods to be a homesteader. Question number 1. Where in the world are you? I am in the United States of America and I am from northern Indiana. Question number 2. Where approximately is your homestead located? Like I said, I'm in northern Indiana and I'm about 31 miles approximately south of Notre Dame. Number 3, what is the size of your homestead? All right, our homestead is kind of a different situation. The property that I live on has been in my family for at least 50 years. My parents bought 10 acres back when they hadn't been married all that long, and we've been on this property ever since. Now, there are 6 of us children, and so probably about 25 years ago or so, my parents decided to go ahead and have a surveyor come out and divide the 10 acres as evenly as possible 6 ways, and then we each got to choose which section of the property we wanted, and it started with the oldest and went down to the youngest. And so the property that I officially own is a little bit under 2 acres. Now, not all of us siblings live on this property. And so the siblings that don't live on this property are pretty good about letting those of us who do live here use their property. So my brooder house where I raise my chicks is actually on my sister's property, which is right next door. And then right next door to her, my dad lives, and he's still living there, and that is where my garden is at. It's actually officially his garden, but he has some physical limitations now, and so he does do some of the work, but he can't do any of the heavy, like tilling or any of that kind of stuff. So if you want to include everything that I'm actually have any of my projects on, it's close to 6 acres. But my official property that I actually own is just under 2 acres. Question number 4, is your homestead rural or urban? It is rural. Number 5, what is the climate and weather like? Well, the big joke in Indiana is if you don't like the weather, wait a few hours and it'll change. And that's really pretty true. We do have the 4 seasons. We have winters that are, it just varies. This year has been a terribly hard winter with lots and lots of snow and really cold temperatures. Last year, the 2 years prior, were very mild winters with not as much snow, and last year I don't think it even got below freezing, or not below zero. It was below freezing, but not below zero. But like I said, this winter we've had tons and tons of snow, and it's been really, really cold, and we've been joking that it's the winter that will never end because it just is there forever. Our summers aren't too horrible. July is the worst month. It sometimes gets up over 100 degrees, and the humidity gets pretty rotten. But July and the early part of August is the worst. Other than that, it's not too terrible. Number 6, what is the growing season? The first and last frost. Now that also varies. Typically our first frost is in October. Sometimes it'll be a little earlier than that, towards the end of September, but usually in October. And our last frost is in May. We, in our family, our rule, I don't know if it's the Indiana rule or what, but we feel like that it's very safe to plant things outside after May 10th. So we usually wait till May 10th, and then we plant our garden after that. Number 7, do you have any animals? Yes, I do. You hear my dogs. Those aren't exactly like farm animals, but we do have dogs. We have a couple of outside dogs that act kind of as our guard dogs. We have chickens and ducks and rabbits that are officially ours. And then we have more chickens and a goat that are technically my dad's, but like I said, he's been having some physical limitations lately. He, about a year or so ago, was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he's perfectly fine. He is cancer free now, but the treatments that he had to undergo to combat that created brittle bones, and so he has to be really, really careful. He can't lift heavy things, and so we as his children have basically said, Dad, you're not going to go out and do the chores. So my family has taken over the chores. My son has kind of claimed the goat. We only have one goat left, which is kind of sad, but we don't really want any goats, and we're not going to get rid of him. So we're going to keep him till he passes away. And then, like I said, my dad has a bunch of chickens, and so we kind of consider those ours as well. Number 8, what fruits, veggies, and grains do you grow? We don't grow any grains other than corn, if you want to consider corn a grain. We grow the typical things: cucumbers, tomatoes, sweet corn, peppers, what else? Black-eyed peas, green beans, lettuces, watermelon. Trying to think. I think that's everything that we planted last year. My dad used to have a much bigger garden, but we've toned it down. We've condensed it down quite a bit. So that's, I think, everything we grew last year. Number 9, how do you grow your crops? Organic, intensive, commercial, raised bed, container, row gardening, BTE, I don't know what that is, greenhouse, etc. We have a few raised beds, which is my preferred method, but any of you that do raised beds know that that does take money and time to get those done. But we have a few raised beds. We have one really high bed that my dad typically does and takes care of, because he doesn't have to bend over or anything. It's like he can just stand straight and do it. And then he puts his like radishes and lettuces and spinach and onions and that kind of thing in that really high bed, which those are awesome. I have a bad back too, and I wish we had tons of those. And we will try to go as organic as possible. Now I say that because we have lots of fields around us that don't belong to us, and they are commercial fields, and we had a crop duster that came and dusted the field across from our house a zillion times last summer, and of course our vegetables got overspray from that. So although we do not spray our vegetables, we could not sell them as organic because of the farmer across the street. Number 10, do you sell any produce, animals, or things you create for income? Not really. I used to sell eggs quite frequently just to family, and well, I didn't sell them to family, but to friends at church and things like that. But it never really, it wasn't an income. It didn't even pay for the feed really. It was just because we had a ton of eggs and people really wanted to just pay us for them because, you know, they're nice. I don't do that so much anymore, just simply because it got to be kind of a pain dragging eggs to church every Sunday. If people ask us for eggs, we just give them to them now. My dad, he takes several dozen to his church and just gives them away. Other than eggs, we've never actually sold anything that we get from our property. Number 11, do you grow solely for your own needs? So that basically means yes, it's for our own needs and for friends and family who need or want anything, or if we have excess, we will give those things away. Number 12, do you have health issues that impact or guide your homesteading? Do they affect how you live and work your land? Well, I talked about this a little bit in the previous questions. You know, my dad with his issues does definitely affect how he would do things. For me, I don't really have that many limitations. I do have a very bad back and bad knees, so I can't squat down or bend over and things like that. Okay, someone came to the door, so I don't remember exactly where I was at on this question. As for me, I do have a bad back and bad knees, so it is difficult for me to bend over or to squat. In fact, I can't squat at all. So things like that require those kind of motions, I have my kids do, and my son, he is very big and strong, and so he does all the heavy lifting. He runs the tiller and things like that. Now, I really enjoy harvesting the garden and putting up the produce, like canning and freezing and things like that. So that's my main job, and I do a lot of the planting. My dad, he can still do the planting to some degree, so he does that. And then my sister, who lives on the other side of my dad, she does a lot of the weeding and hoeing and things like that. So it's kind of a community effort for our garden, but we do end up getting quite a bit out of it, and so it works for us. Question 13, how long have you been homesteading? Well, my parents have owned this property for over 50 years, and they have farmed it the whole time. Years and years ago, they did quite a big operation and had lots of garden. And of course, as time has gone by, it has whittled down. I personally have not really started doing any kind of homesteading till maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I got some chickens and ducks. I never really enjoyed gardening very much. My particular part of the property, the soil is really bad, and so gardens in the past have not been very good. Nothing really will grow. But now that I'm helping out my dad and kind of I haven't taken it over, but done a lot more in the garden over at his property, I do enjoy gardening a bit more. And like I said, we all kind of work together and share the load, so it's not so challenging. And last summer was the first official summer that I actually had a lot to do in the garden, and I do plan on doing the garden again this year. Number 14, do you like homesteading? Yeah, I do. I like the fact that we can grow our own food, and that I know exactly how it's been handled and where it's come from, and that I can reduce the amount of pesticides and things that are on my fruits and vegetables. I like being able to put food in the pantry, and I do enjoy working with my animals. The only time I really don't like it is in the dead of winter when everything is frozen and doing chores is 3 times harder. But that's just part of it, and I have to keep reminding myself that winter doesn't last forever. And the last question, what homestead activity do you like the most? I think taking care of my ducks and chickens and in the summertime. I think that's probably what I enjoy the most. And I do enjoy freezing and water bath canning the produce. And like I said before, I do enjoy harvesting. I like to see how much we can get out of the garden. So I would say those are my favorite things about homesteading. I would like to thank Liz and Wanda and Danny for putting this collab together. It's been fun, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about my neck of the woods and what it's like to live and homestead in northern Indiana. Thanks a lot for watching, friends, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.